So I was reading a comment on YouTube the other day that was made by a TERF, and one of the things that kept coming up in the comment was this idea that the dysphoria of trans guys actually comes from this, like, internalized misogyny. So I thought that was really interesting. I mean, it's BS, because internalized misogyny and dysphoria are very different things, and so I kind of wanted to unpack that a little bit and think about how those things each affected my life. So when I think about my gender identity in my younger years, I'm mostly remembering incidents of me enforcing gender roles on myself, in that I was enforcing male gender roles on myself. Which is really interesting because no one else was doing that. No one else was saying, you should do X, Y, and Z that are all things that guys do. They were telling me to do what little girls should do. But even though no one was forcing those male stereotypes on me, I still saw what they were because I lived in the world, and so I could force them on myself, pretty much. Doing things like pretending to care about sports that I didn't actually care about, or always choosing masculine colors instead of feminine colors, and never wearing any clothing that could be mistaken as feminine. I think I felt that if I slipped up and expressed any kind of femininity, that people would take that and use it to enforce an even stronger feminine identity on me. Because, I mean, it's difficult when you're a kid and people are constantly enforcing this gender that you don't identify with. So I guess I felt like my response had to be, like, as strong and consistent as possible in order to, like, get through to these people. I think all I was really understanding at such a young age was, this stuff is for girls, this stuff is for boys, I'm going to do the things that are for boys. But also, like, intellectually understanding that I wasn't categorized that way in society. So I feel like that's where the social dysphoria comes in. Social dysphoria being this idea that, like, I'm categorizing my gender this way, and everyone around me is categorizing it in a completely different way. And I think one of the ways that social dysphoria manifested itself in my younger life is that I grew this disdain for feminine things because they were being forced on me. Like, I didn't have the words to describe it at the time, but that's essentially what was happening. I grew this hatred for dresses because they were being forced on me in the same way that a feminine identity was being forced on me. So then, like, you take that and you mix that with, like, the sexism that you just, like, grow up learning, and you get this, like, amplified rejection of femininity. But I'm not sure if I want to call that internalized misogyny, like, for my own case, because I feel like the misogyny I had in high school, and I had a lot of it, was directed at other girls and women, and not so much at myself, because I wasn't identifying, at least I wasn't emotionally identifying as a female. Intellectually, I was, but it was a different level of identification. I think what I had going in my head was that, like, I was a certain subset of female, like a subset of one, and I think that's the system I had set up for myself from a very, very young age. And so in setting up that system, I could easily attack other women without feeling like I was attacking myself, because I wasn't part of that. So as I'm being perceived as male more and more, I'm feeling less and less of this drive to hyper-masculinize myself, like I did before I started taking hormones. Because beforehand, I had to use every ounce of my energy to push myself to the very edge of this conceptualized box that I was in. But now that I'm, like, mostly in this other box, I have to think about, like, where I want to live in that space. Because, like, pushing against the masculine edge of the female box is, like, very different from pushing against the masculine edge of the male box. But of course that's just my own story, and obviously not all trans narratives are the same. Hopefully I can weave all of this into something that makes sense. Thank you for listening, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!